Today, we're delving into a unique traffic stop involving a district attorney. The officer initiates the stop after observing the driver speeding, an offense under Section 22349A of the California Vehicle Code, which limits most highways to 65 miles per hour unless otherwise posted. While this event occurred outside California, the principles in similar codes nationwide still apply. Speed limits exist to ensure safety on public roads. Traffic codes nationwide grant officers the authority to stop drivers exceeding posted speed limits, regardless of who they are. Here, we see the driver choosing not to pull over immediately. Instead, she continues driving to her home. Under Scott v. Harris, 2007, the Supreme Court held that officers can pursue a fleeing driver to ensure compliance, especially when public safety is at risk. Failing to pull over, known as eluding, can escalate a traffic violation to a misdemeanor or even felony in certain cases, depending on the state. In most states, refusing to stop for law enforcement can be charged as evading a peace officer, with potential consequences like arrest or additional fines. As the driver pulls into her garage, the officer follows her in order to complete the stop. Under United States v. Santana, 1976, police are allowed to enter a suspect's private property if they are in hot pursuit of a fleeing suspect. Though the driver here wasn't in a high-speed chase, the principle of following a non-compliant driver to ensure the stop applies. Once an officer initiates a lawful stop, they are allowed to follow the driver onto private property if the driver refuses to pull over. The driver identifies herself as the district attorney and implies that her position exempts her from normal procedures. Legally, however, no one is exempt from following police instructions during a lawful stop, as established in Hiibel v. 6th Judicial District Court of Nevada, 2004. Here, the court ruled that individuals must identify themselves and cooperate with officers during a stop when it's requested for investigative purposes. This case highlights that public officials must still follow the law in traffic situations, as their role doesn't alter their legal obligations in compliance with traffic laws. Understanding the complexity of the situation, the officer calls his supervisor. Law enforcement officers often call in a superior officer to ensure impartiality and to de-escalate situations that could be seen as confrontational, particularly when a driver resists compliance. Calling a supervisor is a procedural safeguard that promotes accountability and fairness, aligning with recommendations from the National Institute of Justice on de-escalation. As the driver continues to refuse the officer's requests to step outside of her garage, the officer explains that failing to comply during a lawful stop can lead to an arrestable offense. This principle was affirmed in Rodriguez v. United States, 2015, where the court ruled that officers can briefly detain a driver to conduct a stop, even on private property, if necessary to complete a lawful investigation. Law enforcement's authority to detain or arrest is valid if the driver actively resists a lawful stop or refuses lawful instructions, especially when the driver has crossed into private property while in pursuit. Ultimately, the officer issues a citation for speeding, despite the driver's uncooperative behavior. Speeding citations fall under traffic infractions, typically non-criminal offenses. However, the driver's resistance brought the risk of escalating to a charge of evading law enforcement. This situation shows how compliance can keep a routine stop simple, while resistance can bring unintended consequences. As the interaction winds down, the driver apologizes for her tone. The officer, understanding her frustration, emphasizes the importance of pulling over promptly for everyone's safety. This dialogue underscores the importance of calm, professional communication between officers and citizens, especially during high-stress situations. This case teaches us that no matter your position or background, respecting traffic laws and cooperating with law enforcement is essential. By following procedure, everyone's safety is prioritized, and encounters can end smoothly.